you give them like a little friend or whatever, but then that friend is used to protect them.
They'll purposely go out of their way to find those kinds of things and cause damage.
Like they'll just send an email. I guess you don't have to do anything for them to kind of hack your system.
Your camera's on, but you can access it. You might want to figure that out.
They had to get the idea from somewhere. I like to go down some rabbit holes. I don't know how I'm guessing you are with Pegasus, like the whole Pegasus systems.
But it's a good kind of hack.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Totem Podcast. I'm your guest, Monico Carrillo, and of course, here we got
Erick Carrillo here on the other side of it. Super excited about today's because we don't really get to talk too much tech all the time, but today we got a pretty good guy to talk tech with us, especially with like all the stuff going on now with AI and smart homes and all this stuff. Is that a good thing to do it or not? That's a good question.
We're about to find out. He's about to break the news for us.
There you go.
So, Anthony, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. It's really interesting. I've been watching your guys' stuff for a while and, really adapted some of the stuff that I even do in my day-to-day. So I'm glad you guys started reached out and connected and we're doing this. No,
that's cool. I want to start off with, because we're going to get into some tech, cyber stuff. I mean, that's what you specialize in. But I want to start off because this weekend, it fit perfect. This weekend, I was watching a movie. It was on Netflix. It just came out. It was, what was it called? Leave the World Behind with Julia Roberts. And they're talking about, how people say, like, the next war is going to be like a cyber war, and it's going to have all this stuff.
World War III is going to be...
Yeah. And so this movie was actually like a cyber war, like how it happened. They tapped into their systems. They got all these Teslas because they're self-driving.
Right.
Just crashed into each other. So like the whole city was shut down. Of course, it was New York City, great New York.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, like on that aspect, like there has to be some truth to that stuff for them to get to be able to get the topics of how to come up with the movie script now. But like, I'm just curious to know, like, on your aspect of stuff, like how dangerous, I guess, is cyber stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I actually watched that last night too.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
It took me for a loop on that because I kind of got the hints of it and everything until the very end. And, it's definitely possible. And it's usually the most silly things that kind of cause that. I mean, unless you're, like the government in that aspect of it, and where you're, you have a lot of impenetrable things that can, be dwindled down from, one person accidentally clicking an email link, something like that. But yeah, that kind of stuff is definitely possible. It's just a little bit more difficult unless you kind of know what you're doing with it. And a lot of the times with those kinds of entities, they're military grade, so it makes it a little harder, but not impossible.
How far out do you think something like that is away from like possibly happening?
I think pretty close, honestly.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I mean, even with the Tesla aspect, it took me a second to realize, when it was happening with it, that's, all it takes is, that one bug. Even recently, Adobe had noticed that they had a huge, or no, I'm sorry, not Adobe. It was Citrix. I don't know if you heard about that.
Scared me because we use Adobe. What's going on?
Yeah, Citrix had a bleed essentially, which allowed them to, get into their workspace of it. It's essentially like a way of saying a remote program into their resources, and it became this huge thing like a week or two ago. So it's always something there that's kind of oversighted, or if somebody can figure out a way to get into something they're not supposed to, that can really make a lot of matters worse. So
how'd you like the ending of that movie?
Frustrated.
Terrible ending.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. I haven't seen it yet.
It's terrible ending.
Yeah, it was my wife was so angry.
Yeah, me and my wife were watching. We're just like looked at each other like, what the fuck?
Is it like one of those like, oh, they woke up from a dream?
I guess you'll find out. Or
oh my gosh, it's so unsatisfying.
We're gonna let you sit there for an hour and a half.
There you go. Damn it. Oh yeah.
But with all like the security breaches and stuff, are there people like constantly like being the bad guys in the situation that are just their job is to just hack into stuff?
Yeah, definitely. They are black hats essentially, where they'll purposely go out of their way to find those kinds of things and cause damage. There's a lot of conventions essentially, which is more ethical. They call them it's like capture the flag. And what they'll do is kind of essentially have competitions to see who can hack into something that's controlled as fast as possible. So there's a lot of different kinds of people. There's white hats that are ethical hackers. Like they'll if you ever look it up. Google and a lot of big companies have bug rewards. So if you get into Google, you find out I just searched this and I do this certain aspect of code, I can get into their servers. And if you report that to them, they'll actually pay you for finding that, and then they'll repair it.
I guess that's smart on their side.
Exactly.
They get
That's what I
free bug reports and stuff. So it's,
Right.
It's
And
perfect.
Yeah, people make that a living. It's actually pretty crazy how they do. And they don't pay like big bucks for that, depending on how bad it is. So they definitely have their work for them. And they'll even sometimes hire them for that aspect too.
Wow. So like, how does someone like you, like, how did you get started in like the cyber security space and all that stuff? Because it's not something that's been around too long. It's been, and I feel like in the past maybe decade or so that it started actually picked up. So like, how did you get started into it?
I've been in the IT aspect for about 12 years now. I've been everything from system administrator to tech one, and doing all these different roles in between and learning different aspects of them. And I've always been interested in technology. So what'll happen is kind of progress to the point where when I moved out here to Wiggins about 2 years ago, I noticed that a lot of the small organizations out here, they didn't have kind of adequately what they would need. So I ended up pursuing that into, my own stance for it. And, I've gotten a few clients out of it where I've noticed that their setups are, satisfactory to the point where they'd be safe, and then I have a lot of them, calling me every now and then saying, oh, this computer broke. It's like, well, that's not, that doesn't fit with what your network needs. So, and, VoIP and stuff like that, where there's so many different entries in where it's like, okay, well, we'll essentially do a whole revamp of your entire infrastructure so that, you can see that you're failing in these aspects of it, but then you need to get those fixed so that it doesn't get worse for you, or even backups, for example. A lot of clients out here, who notice that they're like, you got to back it up. I'm like, it's like, yeah, we can back your computer up with all your files. Like if that crashes and dies, you're done. Like that's it.
Well, I mean, that's a big problem with like small businesses, because they're like,
Right.
oh, like I got all my stuff here on my computer, I'm good. Like no one's gonna actually come and get me. But then what if that computer crashes? What do you do then?
But even on another one, a lot of businesses out here, we're kind of talking about it the other day, like how much of them really do have a computer system going? Because a lot of them, I think,
That's
still
true.
go like
Right.
They're still on pen and paper.
pen and paper, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely the more secure aspect of it, but more for efficiencies, essentially, having that other system, even if it's just one computer in the back that, you're sending emails from. A lot of the stuff nowadays, too, is you can actually do from your phone. So a lot of the stuff that I offer, usually included with my services, is multi-platform. So, I mean, you might not need a computer. You can just have that point of sale, that we kind of talked about before, where it's like, okay, I know that is all completely cloud-based. Something happens to it, I don't have to worry about it because it's backed up, but I can also check it on my phone, So there's different many avenues you have where, you don't have to have the computer aspect into it to, make it efficient, but, there's other options where it's like your computer, or I'm sorry, your phone, stuff like that, where we can put it on different things and figure out the best solution for them.
Okay. So what does a system, I guess, like a general system kind of look like for like a small business? Or I guess, how would you take them from like pen and paper to like this? Because they can
Right.
just literally get, how do you say it, frustrated right away if
Well,
they're used
exactly.
to this. So what's a process look like for you? Like, how do you walk them down that alley?
Yeah. So, I'll do the full kind of audit with them, essentially saying that, your internet coming in right now is literally just what the ISP has provided you, so, and that usually is good for residential, but not for business, because they're not trying to get residential, they're trying to get business. So what I'll do is I'll evaluate kind of how their network looks at that point and their processes, and see, okay, so you're putting these in a folder essentially, and you're kind of stacking them up. Well, there's a more efficient way with this product that I have, which would be like computer scanner everywhere, to put it into like OneDrive, for example, so that's backed up. And I'll kind of go through the whole process with them as to how do you do it, and how can I make it better for you, more efficient. That's for the day-to-day processes. But for like the cybersecurity aspect of it, we'll get a firewall for them, where essentially it's this little tiny thing in between the modem and their network, so it's secure. Blocks any kind of strange traffic out, and it will ensure that anything coming in is only supposed to come in. Once they have that in place, then it's kind of slowly, progressively building them up. Like, do you need wireless here? Do you need wireless there? What do your servers look like? Stuff like that, where it's like, okay, I have an old Dell in the back that has been sitting there forever, and it has my QuickBooks on it, for example. And it's like, okay, that's good. You see that, but you see how it's directly connected to your modem. It's like, that's a problem.
So I guess break it down, like try to break it down for us, like in simpler terms, like what is a firewall? Like what is it like? Because I mean, it's cyber stuff, so you can't really
Right.
see, but like what is it? Like
So the firewall is essentially an appliance that goes in between your ISP and your network and everything, your wireless, your computer, stuff like that. And what it does is it's constantly updated, through the latest threats and everything, so that it knows, hey, this one's coming through here, but is that a bad actor? So essentially saying, if I'm trying to reach you guys from my computer at home, and I'm trying to send you something malicious, through your network because I found a way in, the firewall will catch that and say, that's not traffic that I recognize, so you can't be doing that. And it will actually block that entirely out.
So that's why a lot of emails sometimes get blocked out and say, I didn't get your email.
It's automatic spam or something.
Right. So, yeah. And then we have that aspect, too, where, there's email filtering. That aspect of it is essentially a program that kind of middlemans in between your email and when it receives to you. So what we set up is Proofpoint. So when you're sending or receiving emails out, instead of it going directly out, it actually goes through this third-party service, which is secure and encrypted, uses HIPAA compliance and everything there to scan the attachments, check the algorithms in it, and say, is this phishing or is this malicious? And if it is or isn't, then it'll either pass it or it won't, or you can quarantine it depending on if it's not sure. So you can review it.
So that's pretty much what you're watching, like the firewall, the stuff kind of going in.
Exactly. So everything coming in and out to make sure it's not bad, and teaching that the most important aspect I think out of all of it is personnel training. It's like, okay, when you hover over that link, does it say google.com or does it say some other weird address that you don't recognize? And
even now they're getting like pretty crafty with this. They'll be like google.co or something,
exactly.
Or they'll change like the font of one letter, and it's like the same. It still says like google.com or whatever, but then the O is like a different font.
Right.
So it looks similar.
Yeah.
But it's different.
Did you send that or
No, our brother sent it.
Yeah, he sent a thing like the A is like I don't even know, but it's like a different font. Like in the thing. And it's like, so they get you that way. And kind of with that, so it's interesting because I was reading something the other day, and it goes to like they'll just send an email to, like someone send an email to you, like I guess if you don't have a firewall, and it'll just stay kind of like in your inbox,
Right.
And I guess you don't have to do anything really for them to kind of hack your system because they're already in, because I guess they'd accepted it in your inbox. How much of that is true, actually?
It can be partially true. I mean, a lot of times when it goes into your inbox, it's not really activated until you actually open the actual email. And then at that point, they can put malicious things into it.
So you open the email or like click something in the email? Or
if you click in the email. If you open it, then it kind of like sets the trigger for it because you can do read-only stuff where it says, okay, they've opened that, and then that's where it kind of activates the link and stuff like that where, then it's like, okay, let's see what they're going to do with it.
It's like things that people don't really think about, but it's like constantly going on in the background. I guess it's kind of scary when you start thinking about it. Like there's all kinds, especially like business owners, there's all kinds of stuff that could be going on behind the scenes, but they're just worried about the dude breaking in the store, which doesn't really happen around here. Like, I mean, I guess it does happen, but it's like more probable that someone's gonna hack into your system or something.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I've seen so many times with like manufacturing companies, CPA firms, where the receptionist gets an email that says, "Hey, this is the CEO. The address looks weird. It didn't get caught," and says, "Hey, send me what's the new credentials to reroute the stuff because I need to have all the money transferred over here." And they'll be like, "Oh, okay, not a problem." They'll get their message or some kind of text and everything, and thinking it's them, and then they'll do that kind of stuff. So there's so many different types of phishing, and with that platform that I offer, it actually saves that aspect of it. It'll notice, hey, does that match their email address? And if it doesn't, it blocks it entirely.
So the thing, like if that happens, I guess who gets sued? Because you're going to get sued for that. Like, would it be the CPA office? Like if they don't have anything, if they just give out information like, oh, we messed up, we thought it was them. So will they get sued? Or?
So it kind of gets really weird and tricky when it gets to those kinds of aspects of it. A lot of the times it would be the CPA office, kind of reporting it because they should have some kind of cybersecurity insurance. That should be the number one thing a lot of businesses have. And nowadays they're making it more affordable where it's like you should cover yourself. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times they'll go back to them and they'll do a full audit backwards, like that I do everything for them that I could, that I make sure everything was right on that aspect where it should have been prevented, and make sure it wasn't like a user error, So it usually starts there, and then it kind of just progresses from the investigation as to who was at fault, essentially. So,
sidetracking a little bit to that, I like to go down some rabbit holes. So we're talking about stuff that just hangs out in the background. I don't know how, I'm guessing you are, with Pegasus, like the whole Pegasus systems and stuff like that, the Israeli system. I like going down rabbit holes. So like,
Let me get my tinfoil hat.
Let me get the tinfoil hat. Bring them out, Eric. So they get them out. Like they have these stuff kind of running in the backgrounds, you know.
Right.
And I was reading an article today on it, and it said it pretty much says like open source all the countries that have bought, you know, the Pegasus system to use, and it says the U.S. doesn't use it. That's what it says. It says the U.S. doesn't use it. But like, how much of this stuff do you think is actually tapped into, like, our iPads or phones and all this, that they're just like getting all this data?
There's all this thing going around too, like, oh, your phone listens to you while you're talking, and then it pulls up customized ads and stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff is listening to you, and it's integrated a lot of stuff. You know, even to the point of where if you use text to speech, you know, even on your phone, what it actually does is it records your voice, sends it to Apple servers where it stores it, and then sends it back out again. So like everything is essentially kind of listening to it. And, you know, with a lot of, you know, healthcare offices and stuff like that where, you know, HIPAA's required, they can't have those kinds of devices in there for that reason, you know. It's integrated into a lot of stuff, you know, anything that you can think of, like, you know, like you said with your phone, you know, it's going to catch those ads and stuff like that. If you start talking about dog food, which I'm probably going to get now later, it's going to be, you know, just you're going to start seeing ads for it. Or even, you know, a few things you mentioned once or twice, it's going to catch it. And it's just, you know, the way to shut that off is to, you know, essentially just not use your phone and stuff. That's where it's kind of difficult in that aspect of it. It's like, yeah, you know, you set the permissions right, you might be able to get away with 90% of it, but there's always going to be that 10% that's like, what did I forget? You know, and it's going to start listening. Yeah,
because when we download the app, it tells you the terms of service, you know, the ones that nobody read. And you're pretty much giving them access to do that. That's why we get all these ads and stuff, you know.
Exactly.
Going from the marketing side. That's what they do. That's how they get that.
But with like the Pegasus stuff, is it like...
Because you don't have to do it. I guess they have like the Pegasus, and then they got the Pegasus 2. I guess with the Pegasus 2, you know, they would give you a link, and you click on it, and then, like, I guess it's activated. Like you're saying, like, you open it, but I get Pegasus 2, they just have to, you don't have to do anything. They can just send it to you, and you're tapped in. And, like, this whole thing was going, they had where's he from? The Prince of, where's it called? One of those big,
Dubai.
Probably somewhere over there. But they tapped his stuff, and, like, they were talking about Bezos, and they got, like, tapped into their stuff. So, like, I guess it's used to be able to track, like, how you're saying, bad stuff's going on, terrorism and stuff. But how much of the stuff are they just tracking just for fun? That's my thing.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's completely, you know, we don't really know what else they're, you know, leading it to. Maybe the stuff that you're looking up ends up, you know, being passed on to, you know, the government or whoever to, you know, track what you're doing, or, you know, so that's where it gets like a slippery slope with everything. And I try to avoid having as much as I can, even in my own home, just for the fact that, you know, you don't know who's listening.
Yeah. So are you like against like the whole like smart home type stuff, like the smart locks, the smart thermostats, and all that stuff?
Not from the smart aspects of it. I mean, I think they do definitely provide convenience for, you know, users, you know, people that, you know.
That's the magic word, the convenience. They give you the convenience, and then come here, they got you.
You can shut off your whole house by saying, you know, hey, shut that off, and the whole thing turns off, you know, and everything. And even reading, you know, your distance from your house, like, you know, I know Google has like a certain distance where if you keep your location on, it sees you leave your house, it'll shut everything off for you, and then when you get close, it'll kick everything on. So it's where it's like, you know, how much convenience are you willing to offer for the security aspect of it? So
which is really cool. Like if it does all that
right
stuff. Like there's some guy I know, he has a smart home stuff. So he says when he gets to a certain range like of his house, like his garage will just start opening. And like that's cool.
It sounds cool.
But I think I'd rather just press the button. Like it's gonna take me half a second to press the button. But like with the smart home, because it starts knowing, I guess the tinfoil hat again, but it starts knowing like all the times you go to sleep because you turn everything off.
Right.
And like, hey Alexa, play this, or Google, play that. You know, it starts knowing like everything about you.
It sounds cool and all that stuff until like someone's trying to like actually break into your home or something. If your house knows everything about you, then it's probably a little easier to just hack into that.
Yeah, because couldn't they just hack into your system and now they can just...
Oh, yeah.
So they could also like hack into your cameras and just like watch you when you're in your house.
It's actually really common with
baby naked walk around the house. Huh?
Yeah, it's really common with yeah, exactly. It's really common actually with like baby monitors and like home security systems. Like some of those white hackers I was telling you about, they'll purposely go out and they'll look for it's called open ports, and these are certain numbers that pass the information in and out. Well, the most common ones with like residential ones and what, business owners when they start up is those are usually open. They don't ever close them. They're just kind of like we have the basics covered where you're not going to be really damaged. So, here you go. And what they'll do is they'll get into it. And if they're a white hat, they'll, essentially tell them like, hey, just want to let you know your camera's on, we can access it. You might want to figure that out. So there's, some people out there that are nice about doing that kind of stuff, and then there's other people that, will watch your, baby sleep because it's open, and, they'll just kind of do weird things to mess with you. Like I've seen a lot of stories with people, just completely messing with people like that when, maliciously, and it's crazy.
So how would you go about like preventing that? Would it be like, is it like
not having a camera?
is it like the specific like monitor like getting that proofed, or is it like pretty much like a whole like sphere around your home to like keep all that stuff like on your network or something?
So in a home aspect of it, you'd want to most likely keep all your stuff local. Like if you have a baby camera, stuff like that, where it doesn't connect to the internet. It's all like just reading it off of a local like hub or something where it's all interconnected to itself, but nothing going out. For a business aspect, you would definitely want to have all those precautions in place, like a firewall, stuff like that, where it can read the most advanced, techniques that it's trying to do, and it can adjust accordingly. You can set rules within the firewall and everything too to say, hey, I'm trying to get out to Adobe, but it's blocked. You can set up to specifically allow that one address to go out, so you're safe. It just takes a lot of configuration on that aspect of it, and that's kind of where we step in to, help them with it and make sure that they're safe, but, they can access what they need.
So break down for me, I'm getting a little confused.
I know.
Break down for me what's, like, how Wi-Fi works. Because you said, like, if it's connected to those systems that they can kind of, like, tap into it, right? And stuff like that. Is that what you're saying, that they're connected to, like, the Wi-Fi, like the camera stuff, or that they're connected to, like, what?
Like the cloud entirely, like anything that would go out to the internet. You can buy those baby monitors for, $30 that, they don't have that cloud capability. You can't check it on your phone, but you have a, handheld monitor for it as an example.
Oh, okay.
So stuff like that's internal, or I guess you'd say intranet, and essentially keeping it where it's its own self-contained unit.
What about like, okay, I got you there. But what about like on Wi-Fi stuff? Because then you can connect, because there's like a lot of public Wi-Fis.
Right.
That you can just say you go to the, I don't know, coffee shop or whatever, where you can just connect to the, like how secure are those?
Those are very unsecure. A lot of the times they'll do is
freezing always better, huh?
Oh yeah, that's why they say you should always at least use a VPN or something on that aspect to protect yourself and your information. Because you can go to a coffee shop and if you know what you're doing, you can connect to their Wi-Fi and read everybody's data. Essentially it's connected to it at the same time. But using a VPN, a virtual private network, you can ensure that your traffic is encrypted to where no one can see you entering your bank stuff in. A lot of the times with theirs is what they call a VLAN. So it's a virtual local area network. It'll kind of separate the traffic from their secure stuff, but it's using the same appliances. So the traffic that's going out on the guest one is different than what's going on the secure one.
How does that work? How can you have like two different like
us a lot on this.
That's why it gets. This is why it's like always so interesting to talk about it because
because you have two different like traffics going through the same like modem or appliance. Is that the better word for it, like appliance?
Yeah, like appliance for it. So yeah, they have what they call the VLAN, and essentially what you can do is you can segregate a network. However many times you'd need it, essentially. A lot of times it's more of like a secure network, like company usage, internal, stuff like that, but then they'll have a guest network. And what they'll do is the traffic from both of them flow down the same appliance, but they have different rules. So the guest can't access anything on the secure network, and likewise, secure can't access anything on the guest. So with the guest networks, it's mostly based for, if you're watching videos or searching up your email, something really quick where, you don't need to be on those resources. And the secure aspect has all those, safeguards in place that prevent it from, getting out where it's not supposed to.
And the secure one, is that like the VPN type stuff?
Right. So it's like the VPN aspect of it, the ports and everything in there to make sure that they are all secure and that nothing's coming in that's not supposed to.
Because then you could also set like your VPN that like you're in a different location too, right?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you can definitely, and they use different kind of data centers for it. So they might have one in like Denver, for example, that you're connecting to, and you're essentially just routing your traffic from wherever you're located to that Denver area, and it's encrypting it there, and sending it back in and out. It's like a middleman essentially on that.
Oh, okay.
So
Like, I've seen a lot of people use that. Like, oh, if you want to like get different shows on Netflix, then like get the
Right.
VPN that you're in a different country or something.
Exactly. And what you're doing is you're just sending your traffic to wherever that country is, and then it thinks you're there essentially because that's where your data is coming from.
So does it make your stuff slower since it has to travel?
It can, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the downside with it is, whenever you're connecting to something more secure, you definitely want to be as close to whatever one's closest to you so that you have that faster traffic. But anything out farther, like Japan, stuff like that, when you're connected to it, can definitely see some latency because it has to travel farther.
How do you go about like? Because you're throwing about it, like
I know,
a
it's
bunch
a
of
lot.
knowledge on this. Like, how do you go about like learning all this? Like, do you go to like school to like learn it, and then like it's like just keeping up with like the new technology as it comes? Is like courses you take like to keep yourself up to date, or is it like self-taught?
It's a combination of all the above, actually. So I actually got my master's in network management and IT, stuff like that, back in 2020, if I remember right. 2021, I think somewhere in there. I got my master's. I have multiple certifications with Microsoft. Constantly I'm looking at different websites for, what's the latest thing happening here and what's happening there. Like, it's a lot of the time is just keeping up with stuff. So you're gonna kind of funnel it into one little area where you're like, okay, I know what's up to date nowadays. So it's a lot of that, and trial by fire, really. When I first started everything, it was all new like that too, and I kind of had to just be thrown into a lot of these situations where you flourish after you're like, hey, that went down. Why did that go down? And then they're looking at you and you have no idea. So
Yeah, especially like technology is like advancing so fast. Like the security aspect is like playing catch up all the time, I feel.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it's almost a job in itself to keep up with everything that's going on. So
I'm still thinking about like the VPN stuff. So going back to it, could you have like a VPN, say like I could have a VPN for me and I could use it for all my networks, say like my phone, my tablet, my everything? Or how does that work? Or is it more for like location based? Or how does
So you could have them for multiple devices. A lot of VPNs will have stuff for your phone and for your computers here. A lot of firewall appliances, like say you're at home, but you have everything here secure. You can have a point here where you can connect to from home. So it's essentially like a tunnel, if you want to think about it. You're at home, but instead of going through the whole internet to get to it, which you might not be able to, it provides a straight tunnel to it, essentially, like a point to point. And it's all secure in that tunnel because you're the only one connected to it. So I don't know, VPNs get really fun when you get down into it.
So it's like you're saying, like a tunnel that you can just connect, like, or have your devices go through the same tunnel.
Right. So yeah, I mean, you could literally set up, if you really wanted to, like say you guys opened a second office, you can have two of those appliances on each side and have them connect through a tunnel specified just for your organization, and you can have them talking in between, and it's still secure.
I like it. Challenge accepted. He's getting us to get the second officer.
There you go. And I'm here.
Yeah, because like back in college, like I was, where I worked was like right next to like the IT department. So like we would go in there sometimes and just like look at all their servers and all that stuff, and it's crazy.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
People will go to like the help desk and they're like, oh yeah, something simple here, I got it. But then you go like behind the scenes, and they got like this big old setup, and it's like, for me it's like insane. But then like you're saying like you have a home office, you don't have a physical office,
Right.
So you can do this from like pretty much wherever, right?
Exactly, yeah. And right now, I traveled everything, and a lot of times I have remote management solutions. Like when I get a new client on, I have programs and stuff that I installed on the work machines to monitor them, make sure they're updated. Kind of see what's going on their network. All remotely in that aspect of it, and it's all secure as well. I only go for the complete highest compliance with them.
Yeah.
So
how beefy does like your system have to be at home to be able to like do all this security stuff?
It's honestly not bad, from just a general usage standpoint. But if like a client out in the field, they might need a server depending on their needs. That could end up being more beefier, where you kind of have to monitor that a little bit more and, have that special attention for it. So, but a lot of the services that, that I offer to the clients, it's kind of like a set it and, forget it for them. But for me, I have to have all this stuff monitoring it and, updating it and all that fun stuff.
And ideally, that's like the best way to go. Like for the client, set and forget it for them, so they don't have to worry about any of this stuff.
Exactly. I mean, ultimately, my goal is to be their IT department, where it's like, you're secure because you can trust me with it, essentially. So I make sure I set everything up to where something happens, something really bad happened at that point. And that's point we need to look into a whole other thing. But with smaller clients, it's still a concern, obviously, but it's more of like, they can feel free knowing that they don't have to worry about this and that their computer issues, if they come up, I can take care of them. And, if they're interested in learning about a new product or they've heard of something, that I'm always going to be that resource there for them.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier, but it's like the PC versus Mac debate. Is there one that, like, obviously like performance-wise, like set aside, but like one that you would like recommend for people, like just based on like the security aspect of it? One that maybe one's like easier to hack into or harder?
Which one do you prefer, Eric, before he answers?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking him. I'm on the fence about both of them because, Apple got the whole ecosystem, but then the power capabilities of a PC is just
right.
It's tempting.
Yeah. And honestly, from a, technician standpoint, definitely PC is, easier to, manage, maintain, and ensure that those, aspects are covered. With Macs, though, it's a little harder, like we talked about, because a lot of the stuff is built into it. So you can't, something happens, so you can't replace it out really quick. But as a security standpoint, Apple, for a basic, like, set it and go, like if you buy it off the market, is probably a little bit more efficient. But there's a lot of people that get into it will also be, I don't know if you've heard of Linux.
No.
Linux is a whole nother operating system. It's like I'd say the third. There's three top ones, Windows, Mac, and then Linux. And it's an open source aspect of it where everything is kind of open. But it's, you have to be so knowledgeable with it that it's almost pointless to do it because not many people adopt it. So there's a lot of operating systems out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing you don't even think about, like, operating systems. People are just like, oh, Windows and Mac
right.
or whatever. But then, I mean, I guess like into the deep web stuff, like people hear about it all the time, but it's like you can't just Google the deep web and then go to it.
Right.
You have to like know your way into it. If
exactly.
You won't be able to find it.
Yeah, it's crazy, some of the stuff that you have to do for it. But I think security standpoint, as long as your network and everything else is set up properly, you should be okay with Windows, especially with a good endpoint, antivirus. So stuff like that, and that's, one thing I offer too with them is I use what's called Sentinel-1, and it's constantly looking at the machines and constantly updating. So even if it sees anything at all weird on there, like activity, anything, it'll immediately alert me and say, even if you're installing a printer, for example, I've had that happen a few times. I've had to.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It'll be like, hey, that looks kind of weird. And it's like, that's a system file for it. It's fine. But,
okay.
So that proactive monitoring is, kind of.
That's what you want then, ideally. Just
exactly.
being on the lookout for that stuff.
Right, yeah. And I mean, it's constantly watching anything on the machines that could be, weird with it. So, from a business standpoint, probably, Windows would be more than capable of it as long as you have those parameters in effect. And, with Macs, the set it and forget it kind of aspect of the security is probably the best way to go on that part.
I'm curious, like, kind of like switching topics a little bit, but like AI is becoming a whole big new thing, like with ChatGPT and OpenAI and all that stuff. It's like, how secure is that stuff? Like, I know, like, using it, like, it's very, like, user-friendly. You just ask it questions and stuff.
Right.
But is there, like, a way for someone to, like, be able to, like, hack into it or whatever and then give people false information?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of anything that's connected to the internet is vulnerable at something, Mm-hmm. So it's just that you have to find that right person that knows exactly what they're doing to get into it. And I think AI is definitely helpful on a lot of aspects of it. And I've toyed with many ideas with it, and they're trying to integrate with systems, stuff like that. But I never think until it's become like pretty much aware of itself, is that it's not going to be what everybody wants it to be quite yet, just for the fact that, you can say, hey, give me an article about this, and it's going to type something, and it could be completely wrong, but you have no idea,
So do you think it's going to be better once it can think for itself, you said?
I think we'll be in a whole mess of problems on that point, but
So you think it will be able to eventually become like self-sentient?
I think it could possibly get to that point someday. I think because right now, if I remember right, it's referencing material up till 2020, if I remember right. I can't remember what they stopped it at. But then, millions of people dumping all this information into it every day. I think it's just a matter of time, honestly.
There was like a while back that there was like a big like article from like, I think it was like Google or something, that AI was already becoming like self-sentient. Like they would ask it questions and they would like talk back to it, and they're like, oh, I feel
like
this,
had feelings.
I feel that. Like I had feelings. But then the argument was like, no, it's just like learning like what a human would respond to that. Is that kind of what like self-sentient is? It just learns what like a human would say in that situation and then just repeat it? Or is it like actually have like thinking for itself?
I think that would be. I think the way you would actually know about it is my personal opinion is, if it can initiate the conversation with you, is how I would see it. Because a lot of times, I wouldn't know how to say, and you're saying, are you feeling sad today? Then it's going to say, well, based on the conversations you've had prior, it could say, I'm going to replicate that feeling and say, yes, I feel sad about that today. So I think it's until you're just on your computer and it starts talking to you about something random. I think that's going to be probably the point where it's like, okay, that's it.
You're looking a little sad today.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, you're looking a little weird today. It's like,
especially with like the robots they got like now, they're like making really like realistic human faces. Pair that with like AI and it's like another person pretty much.
Oh, yeah. You can get a new like profile picture and stuff. Like have AI make me a new profile and it just makes it for you. Like. So that's, I don't know. I think it's
that's interesting what you're saying about like the profile pictures, like, because like there's like new, I guess, softwares that people are just like, oh yeah, do this, like the 10-year challenge, whatever. But then there could also be like malicious behavior behind that, to like be able to like hack into yourself, like, oh, that's how you looked 10 years ago. That's how you look now. That's how you're gonna look 10 years into the future, right. And then just like start stealing all your stuff. Or just like creepers out there just like watching it.
Oh yeah, and they have some pretty crazy stuff out there. A lot of the image generation stuff. You can sell it, and I think it blew my mind one of these days. I can't remember what the website was, but it was just it will generate random, and it looked like a legitimate like picture of somebody taking of somebody. And
there's like a website. Every time you refresh it, it shows you a new picture of someone that doesn't exist.
Yes, exactly. So, and I had to actually like reverse search it and everything just to see if it was true, and they couldn't find anything. So it's definitely getting there. I think it's going to be very concerning soon. I think it's an exciting new technology, but then it's going to be a lot of headaches at some point.
So there's I love watching a lot of like documentaries or like sometimes movies that are like, because that they had to get the idea from somewhere, and usually it's funny, there's like a movie or a documentary, and then like a couple years later this starts actually happening. Another one, it's called Megan. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
Have you seen that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that shit's scary. Yeah. So did you have to see that one?
No.
So there's like,
but it's pretty much like a little girl has a friend or something.
Yeah. No. So her parents die, and then they make a doll. She has to go live with her aunt. Her aunt's like I don't even know what you call what she does, but they make, it's a company that sells toys. So they're like, we need a more engaging toy to get better. So they're like, what if we just get this one? And she makes a toy that pretty much hangs out with her all the time. But it's a robot, dude. It's like an AI robot. Shit. And then she can't turn it off, and then it goes crazy. But
yeah.
Imagine that. You just buy like your kids like shit. He always wants me to push him on the swing. Let me just buy him Billy over here, a robot, so he can go push him on the swing. So I don't have. Like,
that could also be kind of cool though. Like you give him like a little friend or whatever, but then that friend is used to protect him from like danger out there. You send him to school with like a little friend,
I think that's anything happens. Premise of the movie too. At some point, is that she gets too dangerous.
Instead of it's like a guard dog, but like
right.
That's kind of how it was. And she started like killing other people that would try to.
It got really dark.
Oh wow,
it went dark fast.
Yeah,
that's another one you gotta go watch.
I don't know. I don't think it's good to buy your kids' friends. Right. They have to earn their friends.
But, yeah, like there's like a lot of stuff going on like on social media or online, like for kids. Like, do you think it's a smart idea for parents to like get their kids into all the technologies and stuff, like handing them the iPad and just watching their shows on there?
Or what about for you, like you personally? Like, do you let your kids? Because you see all this stuff out there. Do you let your kids like be on there all day?
Definitely not all day. For the fact there is some really messed up stuff out there, and when I do give them, their tablet to use, it's strictly with apps that I vetted, to make sure that that's not going to be malicious in some way or going to expose them to something that it shouldn't. But even the ones that I vet, I still monitor their usage. That's definitely the most important part. Is you think it's safe, but like with YouTube Kids, the people put out some really terrible stuff still, and they figure out a way to get it under there. So,
they did disguise it as like a kid-friendly show, but then it's like, what are the people doing in the show? It's kind of like...
Right, yeah. And that's, it's been a few times that I've looked through there, when my daughter's not having it, and just kind of seeing like the kind of messed up stuff they have. And you'll run across one every now and then where it's like, oh, goodness gracious, So I'll make sure that, I monitor their stuff all the time, I'll be like, you've been on there for, even computers. You don't want you talking to people you're not supposed to, and where did you go? Are you doing your schoolwork, and that's all? And you're messing around, stuff like that. So,
and how old are your kids, if you don't mind?
3 now and 8. So
Okay.
I have like a little gap in between. So, but yeah, they know how to install apps and all that kind of stuff. So I have to password lock stuff, and it's always pretty much watching them do their stuff is almost another job in itself. So it's like, yeah, then you got to set up the good part about me is I can set up remote tools so that I can monitor it when they're not even aware, So I set all that stuff up.
So you're hacking into their system.
Essentially. Oh, yeah, watching all the activity.
But it's a good kind of hack.
Exactly, white hack, there you go.
So on a personal level, what do you think is something that's kept you from moving forward, like say in business or in life and just in general?
I think I haven't really hit a roadblock yet. I mean, the good part about it is I'm really persistent. I mean, I'm doing those other 2 jobs, and pretty much 24/7 thinking about what I need to do. Modifying my marketing, or what about this offering? Is that a better offering than I feel like it'd be for my clients? To the point where it kind of drives my wife insane when I'm sitting there at 9 o'clock and be like, oh, I found this. I'll be right back in a second to go research that.
It's 3 hours later. You're still
exactly. So always on your computer. But yeah, so I don't think I have anything specifically that holds me back. I think it's just that I'm still a little bit introverted, I'd say. I have a harder time going out to, see people and everything, but I like building those relationships at first. So I'll usually wait till, a business has a problem, and I'll go solve that and kind of get to know the owner and, slowly build that up to where it's like, okay, well, you could benefit from this, if I've shown them that, kind of giving the landscape as to here's where your downsides are, and here's where I can help with that. So.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crucial for businesses. Like, that's one thing like they're not even aware of, but it's something that's going to be so important, like moving forward for them. Because I bet you, like a lot of them around here don't even know that there's a possibility of like a breach or something that could end up like messing them up down the road.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, that's been the most common thing. Like I said, is backups and, having those right appliances for their network. It's kind of the number one things that I kind of hit on, where it's like, hey, I don't mean to scare you, but, these are all possibilities. Your computer dies, or what if someone gets into it? How do you address that? And then at that point, it's where, like, I can, help you address that. So that's kind of where it puts me in the, ease of mind aspect of it, and I'm super persistent about it. So, I'm always constantly watching something or, checking something and saying, oh, well, that's with one of my appliances they've sent out an alert for, so I need to make sure everything's adjusted for it. So it's more like a watchdog aspect of it, where it's like I got it all set up, but I can monitor that for you.
Is there something that, like a quick tip or something that you could like give to like business owners, like, hey, like if you're not doing this already, you should probably do it. Like just like basic things before like you like step in.
I definitely say the number one basic things is to make sure that your computer equipment is adequate. A lot of times I'll see ones that have like Windows 7 and Windows XP, it's like that you can't be using those at all anymore, and, making sure that all your computers are updated, all the patches, all the Windows updates, everything on there, because they're there for a reason, So I think those 2 major things, is kind of a good starting ground if, they're trying to get into this aspect of, okay, well, I need to reevaluate my technology and say, I'm doing too much on that aspect, so I need to focus on my business, And then you just want to make sure that there's not that hole gaping on the side where it's like, I didn't update my computer and I'm using Windows 7,
Yeah, that can definitely be a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Little outdated. But no, I mean, appreciate you for coming on, educating us a little bit. A lot of bit.
That's a lot.
I mean, that's like a rabbit hole you can go down for forever. And it's always constantly changing, always learning. So there's always gonna be new things to talk about.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm always up for a good chat, so just let me know.
So guys, you guys heard it. If you guys need some IT help, need some educating side or whatever for it, I mean, right here we got Anthony, so he can help you out. Where's the easiest place for someone to find you?
You can find me on my website, rightcybersolutions.com, or you can give me a call at 970-743-0588.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll put all your links down below, so if someone has questions or whatever, they can reach out to you.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Okay, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for being on. And remember that an act of rebellion is to question.